Hi, welcome to D10tion, where we pretend to know what we're talking about when it comes to D&D. I am your host. I took an arrow to the knee, Tristan. To my right, we have May My Aim Be True, Brandon. And to my left, we have Aim for the Head, Sam. Today, we're going to be talking about Rangers! Go Rangers!
No. Different. You don't need 5 of you to form.
Well, with the way Rangers are, you might need 5 of you.
Oh, sick burn against someone who hasn't played a Ranger.
I'm playing a Ranger.
Once.
Yeah.
One Ranger does not mean you know Rangers. Anywho, we're talking about Rangers. Generally, the Ranger is...
A Ranger.
What their name implies. They are at range.
You generally fight at range. There are Rangers that do more up close and personal combat, but a Ranger is, if you imagine it, it's like more of a hunter, more of someone who lives out in the wilderness, fights or hunts beasts and monsters, fights various, depending on what their prey is, they can fight monstrosities or undead, really, if they really want to. So imagine people with bows. That's what a lot of people imagine when they see a Ranger.
The name implies Rangers, but they are definitely, and we'll get into it in a little bit with the Ranger archetypes and stuff, or some of the other ones. You don't have to technically be an actual Ranger.
No, you can have two. You can have two hands, like two weapons, and be
right.
Like, "What's it all?"
They're more nature based as a druid would be, but they don't exactly grant power from a divinity as much as from their own sort of knowledge and
It's
street
almost
smarts.
like if a druid and a fighter had a baby.
And then that baby lived out on its own for a while. And then,
or maybe if a druid and a rogue had a baby.
Maybe, yeah. That would work pretty well
Most often, your highest stat in being a Ranger will be Dex. Either for you're shooting with a bow, so you can't get hit, or you're using finesse weapons, so you get the maximum amount of your dexterity that you can.
Alrighty. So as we've been doing, we're going to be doing it where we create a character as we go. And Sam, you've already started our character. So
and
what do we have?
Her name is Britzy, and she is a lizard folk ranger.
Finally, a woman.
Yeah. Well, no, we had Desdemona.
Yeah, we had Desdemona.
True, we did.
Yes.
So this is our second one.
So this is our second one.
Keeping it even.
I just thought that a lizard folk ranger would be kind of fun. I don't think I currently have one in my vast array of players that I haven't played yet.
The real reason why Sammy wants to do all these on her account is so she can have these played.
I have many characters on D&D Beyond.
You're also a DM, so...
All of these are NPCs.
Some are NPCs, some are players. Some are characters that I eventually would want to play. But this is Britzy, and she's our lizard folk ranger.
Can you just spell that real quick?
BRTZ''Z.
Okay, that's it. I just wanted you to spell it so everyone can hear that.
All right, so we're doing it as we normally do. We're going to make a level 5 character and to kind of discuss everything. And then after we hit level 5, we'll kind of quickly go through what happens after that. Again, this is really just an introduction to a class to see how you might feel about playing it. As always, it's going to be talking to your DM and going more in depth if you like the idea of it. It's a little, again, much more of an introduction. So as we start, Sam, as always, do you want to tell us about the beginning of a Ranger?
Yes. So starting off with your hit dice, you actually get a nice 1d10 per Ranger level,
which is the same as a paladin,
which is pretty good, all things considered. At your hit points at first level are 10 plus your Constitution modifier, and for every level after that, you get 1d10 of hit points. So once again, pretty much the same as a paladin, which is really nice considering that this is not so much a tanked fighter.
Right.
It can be if you build it, but it doesn't have to be.
You also get your proficiencies in light armor, medium armor, and shields, as well as simple and martial weapons.
So the reason why it doesn't go to heavy armor and medium armor is kind of an iffy depending on which one it is. Because if you're a ranger, part of your whole identity is to blend in with whatever environment you're hunting in or being a ranger in. So heavy armor would defeat that purpose.
Well, I mean, especially if you're supposed to be someone that's hunting, and as we see in the archetypes and stuff later, when you're hunting something specifically, if you're like, clang, 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 go the trolleys.
How do they keep finding me?
So, I mean, and as Sam will continue, as far as tools, you don't really get anything.
Don't get any tools. Your saving throws are your strength and your dex. And your skills, now, with being a lizard folk, Britzy got what's called a hunter's lore. So for her, I chose stealth and perception. Perception is one of the ones, and stealth are both on the list for your skills for a ranger. So I'm not going to pick either one of those. But you can also get animal handling, athletics, insight, investigation, nature, or survival, and you get 3 of them.
Well, if Britsy's going to be a hunter, I would probably say animal handling and survival should be 2. That
I would agree.
And investigation.
Investigation is always a nice one.
Just in case you're, hunting something, but survival and nature aren't going to help you track it.
No.
So at first level, which we are at, we get to do a favored enemy.
Or as some people in the D&D community say, weaponized racism.
Well, you're not wrong. So beginning at first level, you have significant experience in studying, tracking, hunting, and even talking to a certain type of enemy. You can choose from
the entire list of monsters.
Right, which is
basically
aberrations, beasts, celestials, constructs, dragons, elementals, fae, fiends, giants, monstrosities, oozes, plants, or the undead.
And humanoids.
Which you get to pick 2 of if you pick humanoids.
Yes.
But I think it's hilarious that someone would be like, I want to kill angels. Like, it'd be an evil, for sure. Or like some neutral. But I just imagine like one day this hunter wakes up and goes, I want to kill angels.
I mean, you have to think about their backstory, though,
That's
because
true.
maybe they were possibly scorned by a certain god, and maybe
Angels
they want
took
to
my
take
parents.
vengeance on them.
Maybe they want to build one of the 4 horsemen.
Kill the angel.
It's Darksiders all over again.
So, as you just get to pick one, and using that, you get advantage on wisdom, survival, checks to track them, as well as intelligence check to recall information. So you get advantage. So you roll twice, can take the higher roll.
At level 6 and 14, you are also able to choose an additional favorite enemy, as well as an associated language. As you gain levels, you can your choice should reflect the type of monsters you've encountered on your adventures. Again, this has a lot to do with the story that you're doing.
You also learn the language of your favorite enemy. So if you're picking a fiend, you learn
Like
infernal.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like it wouldn't make sense to be like, I hunt fiends. I don't know what they're saying to me, but I hunt them. Like, but it's about that knowledge and getting the insight on your enemy.
Right.
Knowing the enemy is.
So I think I'm leaning towards giants.
Ooh, I'm so down. This lizard folk is just like, I want to kill giants. They step on my stuff a lot.
It was like when you see like a little lizard out in the summer now, and then you just imagine turning around going, ha ha, look out now.
Like maybe her family, her little lizard family, were smushed by a stone giant.
Lizard folk are not little.
Time.
I just want that be known.
I-
Little to giants.
That's what I meant. I didn't mean
Lizard
they
folk
were
are
little, I just
humanoid
meant-
size.
See, I
They also
always,
Giants.
dope.
whenever I think of
Giants.
lizard folk, I always think of was it from Soul Calibur, the lizard people?
Oh,
Like
lizard man. Definitely not a ranger.
No.
Definitely not a ranger.
So
he
the-
usually uses what, a sword and shield?
Yeah.
So the next aspect of being a ranger, which I actually think is probably my favorite part of being a ranger, is the natural explorer, which basically means you're familiar with a certain type of environment, and that's your favored terrain. Like you get basically some advantages for having grown up in a certain type of terrain. The difficult terrain in that area doesn't slow you down.
If you're
your
traveling for more
group-
than an hour, this is what's important.
Your group can't be lost by magical means.
Or except by magical means.
Yeah, except by magical means. And I mean, just kind of different other ways. I would say that if you're traveling alone, you could move stealthily at a normal pace as opposed to like a slower pace.
Which is really good for recon, which is what rangers are known
And
for.
I mean, there's a couple other things, but I think my favorite part is when you make an intelligence or wisdom check related to that, your proficiency bonus is doubled for
Oof.
any skill that you're proficient in,
Higher levels, that's just
which is
insane.
great. I mean, when I was playing Frost, my ranger Tabaxi, and we were in the Arctic, which I had chosen as my favorite terrain.
Weird.
I mean, it was pretty great. So there's Arctic, coast, desert, forest, grassland, mountain, swamp, and Underdark.
Now, some of those are definitely going to get some advantages in it. As far as
Yes.
with those kind of things, you definitely get like when you're engaged in other activities while traveling, such as foraging, navigating, or tracking, you remain alert to danger, which is always a good thing. So your perception is going to be a little bit
Heightened in there.
heightened in there, which so you don't get the drop on you. Things like when you forage for food, you find twice as much
More
as normally
berries.
because you know what you're doing. Or if while you're tracking other creatures, you also learn the exact number, their sizes, and how long ago.
Which is good if a player remembers to do that, because as a DM, often that trait goes forgotten. Because like, oh, I'm in my favorite terrain, I can do whatever I want. People forget that you can do that. As a DM,
they expect it to be an automatic, and the DM's like, nope, you got to remember.
like, you got to remember. So if they're like most people are like, oh, I'm not going to track them. I know where they're going. Like you got to check still. You just don't have like spidey sense of like, there are 12 of them. One is eating a pineapple. The other one sneezed recently. Like, that's not how that works.
I don't know. Mountain?
I mean, that would be
Hill
giants.
There's a lot of giants.
Yeah.
The only few that there's not going to be many on the coast. There's not going to be many. I mean, forests are good, grasslands, and mountains. So I'm going to say mountains.
I'd say mountains.
Mountain. All right, we'll go mountainous.
Mountains
terrain.
can lead hill giants, cloud giants. If you go into a mountain,
Well, I imagine
Possibly stone giants.
she's definitely going to be an asset, especially if you're foraging for food in the mountains.
Yeah.
we're freezing. I found berries. Oh,
Oh, that's good. So, and that's level 1. So then
Yes, that's right off the bat.
right off the bat,
you're just like, I know things.
and so that definitely gives you an advantage in that regard. So with level 2 is where you start to kind of focus everything with your fighting style,
Which is, there are 4. These some of these you're going to hear again and again and again, because their fighting style is just a fighting style. The main one that Ranger has that a lot of people pick because it's unique to Ranger and what they kind of try and do. Well, other like Fighter get this, but Rangers use it a lot.
because they're rangers.
Is archery. You get a +2 bonus to attack rolls when you make with ranged weapons. It doesn't increase the damage, but it makes it more likely you're going to hit consistently.
Yes.
Right.
Which is
always
good.
Nice. Then there's defense.
Which we've talked about before, where you're wearing armor, you gain a +1 to your AC.
Dueling.
Where you are wielding melee weapon in one hand and no other weapons, you gain a +2 on your damage rolls with that weapon. So, like sword and shield is usually
definitely
what you see.
Most likely pick a rapier because of dex and finesse, and then a shield, and then 2-weapon fighting.
When you're engaged in 2-weapon fighting, you can add your ability modifier to the damage on the second attack.
Which is important to note, because if you don't have 2-weapon fighting, if you don't have that ability and you don't pick it, if you have a knife in one hand and a sword in the other, you only add your modifier to your dominant hand, your main attack.
The first attack versus the bonus attack.
If you, let's say your character's left-hand dominant and they always attack first with their knife for some reason, you'd add the modifier to that one, but not your sword. So it's important to know if you want to deal like 2-weapon and do like the whirlwind of swords.
Right.
That one's a good one to go with. If you definitely, in my opinion, if you don't want to pick archery, 2-weapon fighting. If you're not going to pick archery at a range, you want to pick 2-weapon fighting to get in there and just hit as much as you can.
Again, this really comes down to how you want to play. Because, again, this is where, as we've discussed before with things like paladins, doing things like dueling is always a good option. Where you have a weapon and a shield. So if you're a ranger, let's say that your ranger is going to be hunting big things and you want that AC buff like a shield, but want to carry something heavy like a great sword. Because of what something that you're specifically hunting, you may want to go with that. Or if you want to be more of a frenzied fighter with 2 hand axes or 2 swords or whatever you want to do and just go nuts, you may choose the 2-weapon fighting. Or if you're going to be a classic hunter with an archery, that might be your option. Again, this comes down to where you're talking about rangers don't have to be necessarily a ranger. It's ranger almost refers to more as the word as a different word of saying hunter, more or less, without saying hunter.
I'm impartial to archery, though.
I think it would make sense for the character who is fighting giants to be ranged.
Because you don't want to get
headshot.
Well, it's not that. It's shoot, hide. Because if that giant gets up there, it's going to be like, oh, you hit me with your sword. Let me just
step.
I mean, for something, if it was fighting, maybe something more like
Faye. You could be up in person and get them.
See, the only thing that I would have also thought was maybe the 2-weapon fighting, because it'd be more of a frenzied kind of fight.
Yeah, that would work against things not giant.
Right, but my only thought was, again, because of the lizard folk race. They'd be a little bit, they're more primal.
Yes.
They are primal, but they also hunt in packs and have mentality of hunting.
Again,
and
those are
gathering.
just the 2 that I would bounce around, and just my thought. But we'll go with archery.
If all of this stuff wasn't enough when you reach level 2, you have 3 things. You also get spellcasting.
Woo! Woo!
Yes, rangers get spells.
And they get a few spells that are only rangers, which is insane.
But they're definitely geared towards being a ranger.
Your spell casting is not your bread and butter. Let me just say that.
Yes,
You're not going
to come out the gate and throw a fireball.
Typically, the ranger spell are going to be things that enhance your ranged weapons. So, like cordon of arrows or something like that. It's going to be something that kind of gives your melee or your ranged attack a little bit more.
Right.
Which is a good spell to pick, and we'll get into this. We'll probably pick Hunter's Mark. But
Yeah.
that's a spell you pick on your own. You don't have to, but you should. So your spellcasting ability, similar to druids, is wisdom because you're attuned and based in nature. Mm-hmm. So your wisdom needs to be, if you want to use spells efficiently, wisdom needs to be semi-high.
Yes.
All right. So now that's level 2, and just when you think like, man, do I really need any more? You get a level 3 thing, which is your ranger archetype. And again, this is where you can really see where every class has this thing about third level. Third level, you get to really start to focus your character.
If your character survives that long.
So this is where there's about 5, 6.
There's 5. Some of them, as you've seen, some classes get a bunch of subclasses. Some only get 5, which is perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. These are all very attuned to a specific style of play. Mm-hmm. So they all work with range and they all work with swords, but it's how you want to use those. As I keep saying, the spice that you want to add to your ranger's abilities.
So the first one I think this is the one that a lot of people really like to pick for rangers, just because of the one aspect, and that is Beastmaster. The Beastmaster archetype embodies a friendship between the civilized races and the beasts of the wild. United, focused beast and ranger fight the monsters that threaten the civilization and the wilderness alike. And what that really means is you get a pet.
He boiled that down. Yes, you get a pet, but it's a companion.
Yes.
Now, it has to be no larger than medium size, and it has to be a 1/4 challenge rating or lower. But you get to add your proficiency bonus to whatever it does. Mm-hmm. And unlike a familiar that can't attack, you can have it do things, but the companion's able to actually get in there and act and hurt people.
Right, because the beast obeys your commands as best as it can. It takes its turn on your initiative.
So it goes with you. You can either go first or after you.
Right. So, I mean, again, it's one of those things where you run into animals that, even familiar sometimes are a little iffy. This one is supposed to be
in there and at your command and at your side. I know in our game, when we had him, our Dragonborn Ranger Rhaegorn had a panther.
Yes. I mean, they get stuff like attack, dash, disengage.
And use the help action.
Yes. If you don't issue a command, the beast can take the dodge action on its own. It's definitely one of those things where it's a secondary thing to really help you out. Because, again, you can't do things like, depending on the animal you choose, you can do things like if they have dark vision or if they have heightened senses.
Mm-hmm. You can use those, and it can't talk. I mean, you can cast the spell, speak with animal, or talk to it, but you can get a sense of its feelings. Like your DM should be like, your animal is panicked after doing a sniff of the air. That should give you an idea that something bad's happening.
Right. I mean, and again, this is where you can use, depending on the spells you get. Like you could send, let's say, a bird companion over, bring it back, and then you could do like cast with communicate and be like, what did you see? And the animal's like, I saw things, and you're like, thanks, bird.
Now, on the sad time, if your animal dies, it doesn't matter. Spend 8 hours with any other challenge rating of 1/4 or lower, medium size or lower animal, and boom, you have a magical bond. You're back. So, sorry, Fluffer McFluffer, you're dead. I'm going to go with Hootie McHoot. And boom. Not good names. I mean, unless you really like those names.
Those are great names.
I'm more concerned about the heartlessness of his animal companion that he spent years training.
I'm sorry. 8 hours training.
I think I'm gonna give Frost an animal companion. Fluffer McFluffers. It's gonna be a cat.
Not Hootie McHooters.
Well, I mean,
Hootie and the Blowfish.
But I feel like a hoot would be an owl, and I really want the Tabaxi to have like a cat companion. So.
Since there's not as many, we're gonna go a little more in depth into these. So at level 7 with Beastmaster. You can use your bonus action to command the beast to take the dash, disengage, or help action on your. If you don't make it attack, if it attacked, that's it.
At 11, you command your
there's
beast.
one more other part about this.
Is there?
About exceptional training. Their attacks are magical.
Ah, yeah.
So that's important because if something has resistance to non-magical attacks, your companion now
deals
magical damage, which is good. So if you have like a panther or a bear, you can have it go in there and actually start clawing for magical damage, which is good. Even if it's tiny hits, it's still chipping.
Right. So this is where at 11, the companion takes 2 attacks. Or it can take a multi-attack action if it is if it has that action.
So some things have like a claw and a beak.
Right.
So it can take that.
Then at 15, this is always interesting. Being at 15, you can cast a spell targeting yourself. You can also affect your beast companion with the spell if your beast within 30 feet.
You're doing Cure Wounds and Fluffy or Hooter McHooterson is next to you, or not next to you, anywhere within 30 feet, you heal yourself, it also heals your companion. Mm-hmm. So it's like a shared bond that you don't have to... As long as you're keeping somewhat of an eye on its health, you can manage yourself with it.
So, I mean, that what comes down to is Beastmaster is having a companion that works with you. That is more or less what you're getting at.
That's more utilizing your animalistic like sense with nature.
Right. You think of like a hunter who has like a hunting dog with them, and that's pretty much what you get.
Mm-hmm. You're the hunter, it's there to aid you.
Yeah.
Now, Gloomstalker is next, and I know it sounds really dark, and it is.
It is.
So, I'm going to let Sammy take this one away if you'd like.
So, Gloomstalker, at 3rd level, you basically get an additional spell, which is Disguise Self, which is pretty nice. And then you also get Dread Ambusher, which means that you are basically like an ambush master. You give yourself bonus to initiative rolls equal to your wisdom modifier. And at the start of your turn, your first turn of each combat, your walking speed is increased by 10 feet, which lasts until the end of that turn. And if you take the attack action on the turn, you can make one additional weapon attack as part of that action. If the attack hits, the target takes an extra 1d8 damage of that weapon's type.
So first turn, if you are with our archery, you can deal way more damage.
It's kind of like having a not sneak attack.
Yeah, it's not as powerful, but also at level 3 you can attack twice as a ranger, which is really good.
Yeah.
Because you get extra attack at level 5, but this gives you another one at level 3. Yeah. So you're doing an extra attack on your first turn before anyone else can, and then at later levels you get 3 attacks.
Right. Which is pretty nice. At 3rd level, you also gain Umbral Sight, which grants you Dark Vision out to a range of 60 feet. If you already have Dark Vision, it extends it by 30 feet. And you're also adept to evading creatures that rely on Dark Vision, so you are basically invisible to any creature that relies on Dark Vision.
If you're in total darkness...
In the darkness.
If you're in total darkness and it has Dark Vision to see you and your party members, you don't exist to it. Which is insane if you're fighting in a cave.
It's pretty bonkers.
Yeah.
So that is just another thing you get at 3rd level. So that's 2 things based on your subclass.
Right.
Yeah.
Moving up
at 3rd level.
Right. 7th level is the next thing really for Gloomstalker, and that's the Iron Mind. You have honed your ability to resist the mind-altering powers of your prey. You gain proficiency in wisdom saving throws. If you already have this proficiency, you gain a proficiency in intelligence or charisma saving throws of your choice.
Which is insane.
Right.
That a class in a subclass gives you the ability to have...
To pick it, essentially.
To pick which one. If you have wisdom, you're stuck with it. But if you already have it, that's insane. Mm-hmm. Because then you can be like, oh, I don't want to be charmed. I'm going to go charisma. At 11th level, you get Stalker's Flurry. You learn to attack with such unexpected speed that you can turn a miss into another strike. Once on each of your turns when you miss with a weapon attack, you can make another weapon attack as part of the same action. So that would take your total, even if you miss, so you'd at level 5 you'd have an extra attack. You'd get attacked four times if you miss the first one. So that's 4 guaranteed attacks. Mm-hmm. Minimum 3, max 4. You can do, which is on each of your turns.
Right.
So technically your max is 3 to 4, but each of your turns you get a miss attempt to hit, which is fantastic.
And if that wasn't enough,
At level 15.
you get Shadowy Dodge. You can dodge in unforeseen ways with wisps of supernatural shadow around you. Whenever a creature makes an attack roll against you, you don't have it, and you don't have an advantage on it in the roll. You can use your reaction to impose disadvantage on it. You must use this feature before you can.
So if they're attacking you and they don't have advantage, so they're not flanking you, or you're not prone and they're doing melee, or all the different reasons you can get advantage. If they don't have advantage, you can just be like, no, get disadvantage. Don't hit me.
Yeah. This is why I said that a ranger is kind of a combination of like a druid and a rogue, because in some cases the ranger can have some of those rogue-like properties of being very sneaky and stealthy, and,
Right.
and it's kind of makes up for it if you don't have a rogue in your party.
Now, since we're taking this to 5th level, it should be noted that at 5th level, you get another spell called a rope trick, which you touch a length of rope that's up to 60 feet long. One end of the rope rises in the air until the whole rope hangs perpendicular to the ground. At the upper end of the rope is an invisible entrance that leads to an extra-dimensional space that lasts for an hour. It can hold as 8 medium or small people. The rope can be pulled into the space, making it disappear so you are completely hidden. Attacks and spells can't cross through the entrance in or out of the extra-dimensional space, but those inside of it can see out as if a 3-foot by 5-foot window entered the center of the rope.
And this is a really nice spell, especially for the purposes
Of hiding and getting away from, like, oh, we're being followed, a rope trick. And then everyone goes up, pull the rope up, you disappear.
It's pretty nice.
Yeah.
That's insane at level 5. If you guys had that in my campaign, if someone had a rope trick, you guys could have gotten out of at least 7 different situations.
Yeah.
Like, honestly,
It's like paying the tab.
think about that.
Yep.
It's insane. In an hour to sit there, some people can take a short rest. Like, depending on your class and depending on your race, you can take a short rest in that time.
Yeah.
So going from Gloomstalker, we're going to one that I just find it interesting. Not
This
sure
is
if
my favorite one.
Yeah, one that I probably wouldn't use, but it's definitely interesting nonetheless. And that is Horizon Walker. So since it's your favorite brand,
So, Horizon Walker, as I once heard it put in another video, it's like thinking with portals. Your whole job as a ranger is not to hunt things from this plane. Your whole thing as a ranger is you look for things that exist on other planes that are invading ours or coming to ours, and you're here to put a stop to that. You're here to kick them out. This is not their plane of existence. This is yours. So, you pretty much seek out the planar portals which exist in D&D. There's rips in the fabric of space-time that allow you to go to different planes of existence, and that's your bread and butter. You find those places and you pursue what you're looking for. So you get magic, as you all these do, and you get certain spells. 3rd level is protection from good and evil, which is good if you know what you're hunting is something like an aberration, a celestial, an elemental, a fae, a fiend, or undead. You can just go unprotected, which gives you they have a disadvantage to attack you, and you can't be charmed, frightened, or possessed by them. So it pretty much makes it so you're a little more resilient to them. And then, as you talk about with 5th level, you get Misty Step, which is a highly coveted spell because you can just be like, going over there now. Boop, poof. So, at 3rd level, when you start out, you can detect portals as an action. You can detect the distance and direction of the closest planar portal within a mile. Unfortunately, if it's not within a mile, it's kind of just like when your navigation just spins a lot. It's just like, unable to find route. So, you can't use it again until you do a short or long rest. But let's say you know that demons are coming out of a portal and a city's under attack, and they're coming from the city. You can just stand in the center and go,
it's that way.
it's over there. And you can go straight to it, which is great.
Now, at also 3rd level, you get what is it, Planar Warrior?
Yes.
Planar Warrior?
Planar warrior.
Planar.
No, planar. Like a planar.
Planar.
Plain R.
Planar. And that's where you learn to draw energy of the multiverse to augment your attacks. It says it's as a bonus action, choose one creature you can see within 30 feet of you. The next time you hit that creature on this turn with a weapon attack, All damage dealt by the attack becomes force damage, and the creature takes an extra 1d8 force damage from the attack. When you reach 11th level in this class, the extra damage increases to 2d8.
So the reason why it's important that it's noted as force is not a lot of things are resistant or immune to force damage.
Right.
So even if it's resistant to the piercing of an arrow, it's not resistant to the 1d8 or 2d8, depending on the level, of force damage. So it's pretty much like, imagine a second impact. Mm-hmm. The arrow hits, and then a magical whoom, and it strikes him again. So it's a good way to guarantee damage.
It's almost like an aftershock.
Yes.
Hit with an arrow and then the force.
That is one of the reasons I love this subclass. Mm-hmm. So at level 7, you get Ethereal Step. At 7th level, you learn to step through the ethereal plane, which exists all around us.
Yeah.
As a bonus action, you can cast the Etherealness spell with this feature without expending a spell slot, and the spell ends at the end of the current turn. So Etherealness lets you just go to the ethereal plane. And you can be affected by things in the ethereal plane, like creatures and stuff like that. But you can pretty much just be like, I disappear for a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I come back. So if you don't want to get hit or you want to dodge something, like you see something really big is about to hit next turn, Etherealness, it can't hit you.
At 11th level, you get a distance strike. This is where you can pass between the planes in the blink of an eye. You can essentially teleport up to 10 feet before each attack to an unoccupied space you see. If you attack at least 2 different creatures with the action, you can make 1 additional attack with it against a third creature.
So think about that, mathematically speaking, planar speaking, magically speaking.
Speaking.
When you take the attack action, not when you take an action, you blink. By this point, you have extra attack. So you go, pull the arrow, blink, throw. Pull the arrow, blink, shoot. And then if you attack 2 different creatures, you can make an additional attack. So then, do it again. Mm-hmm. Like, that's insane. Just going, blip, 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 blip.
And if that wasn't enough,
we still get 1 more ability.
Spectral Defense. At the 15th level, your ability to move between the planes enables you to slip through the planar boundaries to lessen the harm done to you during battle. When you take damage from an attack, you can use your reaction to give yourself resistance to all the attack's damage on this turn.
So, let's say Sammy has his ability.
Good job, Sam.
And I'm hitting you with a firebolt.
No!
You can just use your reaction. Now, this is every reaction, so every round you get this, to give yourself resistance, which then halves the damage.
Okay.
So if you're fighting a bunch of fire elementals, you just constantly use your reaction to be resistant to fire. Yeah. And there, somehow through magic, you're now on the same... Actually, you're taking less damage than the barbarian, who's raging and taking full fire damage, and you're just like... I don't see the problem, bro.
All right, so we've talked about the Horizon Walker. Let's go with something a little bit more simple with just Hunter.
More classic.
Yes, you're a hunter.
That's the easiest way to put this.
You hunt things.
Right, and this is where at 3rd level you gain one of the following features of your choice. This is where you get to kind of, it's Hunter's Prey. So you can pick between things like Colossus Slayer, where your tenacity to wear down most potent foes. You can hit a creature with a weapon attack. The creature takes an extra 1d8 damage if it's below its hit point maximum. If it's ever been hit at all, it takes an additional damage because it's already been hit.
And then you can do it once every turn.
Right. You have Giant Killer. When a large or larger creature within 5 feet of you hits, you hit or misses you with an attack, you can use your reaction to attack that creature immediately after its attack. Providing that you can see the creature.
It's not worth it.
Yeah,
I know you're
thinking.
It's not worth it for what we're trying to do.
You have Horde Breaker. Once on each of your turns when you make an attack, you can make another attack with the same weapon against a different creature within 5 feet of the original target and within the range of your weapon.
I can just imagine one ranger being in a group of kobolds and being like, no, stop it, get away from me. And they're just like, and like, stop, no, stop it.
So, I mean, yeah, so there's those options. So that's where you kind of just pick again the kind of if
You're
you're
picking-
doing hunter, what you're more if you think that you're going to hit more of a horde, or if you're going to hit larger creatures, or you're just going to hit more creatures that are going to have more of a health bar essentially.
The easiest way to think of a ranger is you already specialize as a ranger with your favorite terrain and favorite enemy. This just specializes you more. So you have you start as an inverted pyramid. So you pick that and you're funneling yourself down, especially with hunter, funneling yourself down to like, I'm going to kill the crap out of this type of enemy.
Now, and then of course, as we continue leveling up at level 7, you get to narrow it down continuously more with defensive tactics, where you can pick from a couple of these, like escape the horde. Opportunity attacks against you are made with disadvantage.
Wouldn't rogues love that?
Oh yeah,
Rogues would love
If
that.
you couldn't disengage, you'd just be like, I gotta run.
you have things like a multi-attack defense. When a creature hits you with an attack, you gain a +4 bonus to your AC against all more attacks at you. So if they try to hit you, they hit you once. You're like, ah, crap. And like, well, I'm going to hit you again. And you're going to be like, okay, +4 to my AC.
This is at level 7. This
Yes.
is around the time when you're going to start hitting big things that can hit multiple times.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that you can choose from is the Steel Will. You have advantage on saving throws against being frightened.
Out of the other two,
It really
it has its charm, but for me personally, nah.
Yeah.
I have a party around me. I'm not soloing this.
Right. And again, as we continue to narrow down, Hunter has a lot of things where you really narrow it down.
Like I said, you're
until
specializing into, I'm going to kill this one thing
Right.
super well.
At 11th level, you get a multi-attack where you get to pick between a couple.
So you get what monsters get.
Right. You can pick volley, where you can use your action to make a ranged attack against any number of creatures within 10 feet of you. You must have the ammunition for each target.
Well, let's understand. Let's break down what that means as our especially for us if we want to pick this. What it means is that let's say there's a 10 feet within a point I can see within range. So 10 foot. Let's say there's 4 dudes.
So
I have my multi-attack at this point.
Thump, 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 thump,
So I can do 8 attacks. I can hit each one twice.
Yes.
Which is insane.
Right. Along with
Whirlwind attack.
yes.
This is for if you want your sharpened pointies.
Yes, you can use your action to make a melee attack against any number of creatures within 5 feet of you, with a separate attack roll for each character or for each target. And so again, we're continuing to narrow because it even goes one more for level 15, which is Superior Hunter's Defense.
So we're at like this level. Now we're going to the point.
Yes. So when you get to the bottom of the point with this, you can pick between 3. You have evasion when you are when you're subjected to an effect such as a.
This is what rogues get at level 7, by the way.
You can get level 15 as a ranger, by the way.
Right. It allows you to make a dex saving throw to take only half damage instead of or
You take no damage if you succeed and half if you fail.
right.
So you're guaranteed to take half damage, and then you can use that because you can use it as a reaction every time, every
Right.
turn, every round.
You can do a stand alone against the tide, or stand against the tide, which is when a hostile creature misses you with a melee attack, you can use your reaction to force that creature to repeat the same attack against another creature other than itself of your choice.
Any creature. So if it's next to an ally, you can like hit them.
And I imagine, like, visually, that's where you duck in the right spot,
Yep.
so they hit it. You're like, no.
And then they can also choose to pick
Uncanny dodge.
Uncanny Dodge.
More roguey stuff.
Now, Uncanny Dodge allows you to use your reaction to have the attacks damage against you, any attack.
But why would you pick Uncanny Dodge if you have...
Because evasion only works on
And on
dex
dex
saving.
saving.
So
Yes.
Uncanny Dodge works on everything. So if you want to Uncanny Dodge a dex save that you failed, but you still want to take half, Uncanny Dodge. But if you think that you're dexterous enough to pass most... if you're not dexterous enough to pass most things, pick evasion. Right. So that's Hunter. You are super specialized.
Right, and that's the real focus of Hunter.
Which I'm thinking, maybe after all that we might pick that. Well, we'll figure it out.
The last one we're going to talk about real quick is Monster Slayer, which is essentially what it is. You have dedicated yourself to hunting down creatures of the night and the wielders of grim magic. You seek
Kill
out
the baddies.
Yeah, vampires, dragons, evil fae, fiends, and other magical threats. You're essentially trained in these techniques to hunt the supernatural.
So at the 3rd level, you get protection from good and evil. which is the same thing it does before. And then 5th level is Zone of Truth. You can cast a zone that if someone's in there, they don't have to answer your question, but if they do, they're compelled, if they fail to save, they're compelled to tell the truth. Easy sense.
At 3rd level, you also get Hunter Sense. This is where you have the ability to peer at a creature and magically discern how best to hurt it. This is essentially when you play any other video game where you play a boss and the red part glows, you know to hit that. It's essentially what it is. Also at 3rd level, again, you get a lot of stuff at 3rd level. Just
you get everything gets about 2.
Yeah. You get Slayer's Prey. You can focus your ire on one foe, increase the harm you inflict on it. As a bonus action, you can designate one creature you can see within 60 feet as your target for this feature. The first time each turn you can hit that target with a melee weapon, it takes an extra 1d6 damage. This benefit lasts until you take a short rest.
Bonus action Hunter's Mark.
Yeah.
At level 7, you get Supernatural Defense. At 7th level, you gain resilience for your brain, and your mind and body. But whenever the target attacks you, whenever the target of your prey, which you got last time, you force you to make a saving throw, or whenever you make an ability check to escape the target's grapple, you just get to add a d6. Which at level 7, there are better options. Let's be real here. It's good, but there are better options.
Right. In 11th, you get Magic User's Nemesis. You gain the ability to thwart someone else's magic. Ooh.
Counterspell, kind of.
Essentially, when you see a creature casting a spell or teleporting within 60 feet of you, you can use a reaction to try and magically foil it. The creature must succeed on a Wisdom saving throw against your spell saving DC, or
it just fizzles.
Yeah.
So you can't use it until you do a rest of some kind.
Right.
And level 15, you get Slayer's Counter.
That's when you gain the ability to counterattack when your prey tries to sabotage you. If the target of your Slayer's Prey forces you to make a saving throw, you can use your reaction to make one weapon attack against the quarry. You make this attack immediately before making the saving throw. If your attack hits, your save automatically succeeds in addition to the attack's normal effects.
That's pretty good. So those are your 5 subclasses or ranger archetypes that you can pick from. So, after hearing all of those, what are you thinking for your baby?
I mean, I really like Gloomstalker, but the Hunter, once you get specialized and you get all the way down there, it does have its perks.
Right.
It does. So, but it's your baby. We just laid it out for you.
Well, since we're only going to keep her at level 5, let's stick with Gloomstalker. If we were going up more levels, I'd say
so
go with
level
the
15,
Hunter.
we do Hunter, and then there'd be an unstoppable prey.
Now, I did already pick the spells. With the Gloomstalker, you do get some spells up to 5th level. You get Disguise Self and Rope Trick, which is good. So you get those right off the bat. Now, the Ranger spell class, you don't have a huge amount to pick from. Once again, it's kind of like Paladin, although I think the spell list is actually shorter than Paladin.
Yep.
So I've picked Ensnaring Strike, Hunter's Mark, which I think should be kind of the bread and butter of Rangers.
It's like your thing. You just pick it. You.
Yeah. Zephyr Strike and Spike Growth. So basically 2 things that enhance your ranged weapon attack, and then something to kind of make difficult terrain and give damage.
When do you get Cordon of Arrows?
I could have chosen Cordon of Arrows. That was one of the options. I could have also chosen Pass Without Trace, but because we get Disguise Self, I figured,
it depends on what we're doing. If we're in if we're in nature, if we're in the city, works.
Yeah.
So also at level 5, now that we have our Ranger at level 5, you get an extra attack, which is always very beneficial.
Yes.
And if we were to continue leveling her up, we're just going to hit on those key points. You get Favorite Enemy.
Again.
This is again where you got to pick another one.
And your Natural Explorer improves.
Land Stride at 8, which is, again, dealing with your terrain.
No extra movement.
No.
Basically.
At level 10, you get a Hide in Plain Sight.
So you can spend a minute camouflaging yourself.
You just pick some leaves up and
you're
like, I'm a pile of leaves.
You get a plus 10 to stealth checks, as long as you remain there without moving or taking action. So
you're essentially Arnold Schwarzenegger in Predator.
Or PETA in Hunger Games.
Just had to make that reference. At level 14, you get Vanish. You can use the Hide as an action, as a bonus action on your turn. Also, you can't be tracked by non-magical means.
Which Vanish, Hide bonus action is what rogues can do already.
Right. 14, you get another Favorite Enemy. Yay!
More enemies to kill.
Yes. 18, you get feral senses. You gain the senses to help you find creatures you can't see. When you attack a creature you can't see, your inability to see it doesn't impose disadvantage.
So if you were blinded,
Or deafened.
Or
they're
deafened.
invisible.
yes, you don't get disadvantage on the attack. You're just like, I know where you are.
Did you fart?
No! Found you.
Oh, you smell like ham.
Well, I'm a hog beast. What do you expect? And then, of course, at level 20, where everyone's always waiting for their level 20, you get Foe Slayer. You become unparalleled hunter of your enemies. Once in each of your turns, you can add your wisdom modifier to the attack roll or the damage roll of an attack you can make against one of your favorite enemies. You can choose to use this feature before your roll, but before any effects go on the roll.
Which is insane that you can add another modifier to damage.
Yes.
A lot of people are just stuck.
You get to the end, you're like, all right, this arrow's really gonna hurt, bro.
Now, at 4th level, we get our first ability score improvement. Now, our rolls for this character were not as good as the rolls for our paladin. So, we can either choose to enhance some of the lower rolls if we want, or we should not. So I'm going to give 1 to Dex, because I think Dex should always be good.
Wisdom.
And Wisdom would be the other.
Because then all of our spells and our abilities are just better.
Yes. All right, so then we're going to backgrounds.
Hunter.
I wonder what we could pick.
Geez, maybe like a hermit or an outlander, far
Outlander
traveler,
Maybe an outlander or a far traveler.
or even something like a sage, urban bound. Well, maybe not urban bound here, but maybe
You're
like
hunting
a,
giants, so.
I'm thinking outlander.
Outlander would probably be best bet. With your Outlander, you get an additional skill proficiency: acrobatics, arcana, deception. Maybe acrobatics. You're already Dexy, but let's make it even more.
Let's
so.
make your acrobatics baller.
You get a tool. You get a musical instrument.
What kind of musical instrument can a lizard person play?
A drum. We're going with the drum.
Didn't we already give someone a drum?
Yes, we did. Okay, how about?
It's a horn.
Let's go with a schwamb.
Okay.
Because I like the way it sounds. It's a schwamb.
I'm pretty sure it's a type of lute.
You're probably not wrong.
A schwam is like a weird. It's a double-reeded woodwind instrument made in
Sounds
Europe.
great.
It's kind of like a clarinet.
It's an oboe.
Our charisma's really low, so we're going to suck at playing it. We also get an additional language, which we already have giant. Maybe let's put something...
Dwarven?
No, let's put something interesting on there. Let's speak
Undercommon.
Loxodon.
Or, yes, Loxodon.
We're going to have a Loxodon friend.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with an elephant befriending a lizard folk.
And then we can go on ahead and do our little personality traits real quick. If you want to roll that D8 twice. We got number 6, which is I'm always picking things up, fiddling with them, and breaking them.
Sounds about right.
And number 5, I place no stock in wealthy or well-mannered folk. Money and manners won't save you from a hungry owlbear.
Yep, nope, that makes sense.
Ideals. Go ahead and roll that D6. Number 4, might. The strongest are meant to rule.
I mean, you're killing giants.
So, yeah.
You're not wrong. Bonds. Number 4, I am the last of my tribe. It is up to me to ensure their names enter legends.
Yep.
By killing all the giants who killed your tribe.
Yep.
There you go.
And flaws.
Giants.
Don't expect me to save those who can't save themselves. It is nature's way that the strong thrive. And
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right.
No one saved your tribe.
And equipment.
An arrow.
Now, because we have a ranger, which is kind of like a rogue with some added benefits, I don't think we should go with scale mail.
No, we're not the
be-
ranger that's up in
We're gonna go with leather
We're
armor.
leather armor.
We can either get 2 short swords or 2 simple melee
Two short
weapons.
swords work.
2 short swords.
There's nothing wrong with being able to pull out 2
Do we want a Dungeoneer's pack or an Explorer's pack? Explorers. And then we automatically get a longbow and a quiver of 20 arrows.
You should.
Because we are an Outlander, we also get a staff, a hunting trap, a trophy from an animal we killed, a set of traveler's clothes, and a pouch containing 10 gold.
That Monday.
So, we have our ranger.
Out of curiosity, can you go to the skills?
Go to the skills on the character sheet?
Yeah.
Yes, I will.
I want to know what we're sitting at in some of these.
Absolutely. Oh, wrong one. Wrong button.
Wrong button.
Technical difficulties. Alright, so what skills do you want to know?
I mean, What Dex? What's our Dex-based skills?
Our acrobatics +6. Not bad. Sleight of hand +3. Stealth +6.
So it's +6.
+6.
That's
That's not
you
bad.
say it's not bad, but they're not meant to be.
They're not meant to be that
No.
way so much.
So what about our attack modifiers?
Your attack modifiers.
I'm just curious.
So you are with your longbow doing a +8 to hit. With your short swords doing a +6.
+8.
Unarmed strike is +4. And by the way, lizard folk gets a bite. It's +4. And then with our spell slinging, I mean it's basically they have to make a strength saving throw.
I guess what's the
Attacks,
DC?
1d6.
What's the DC on the saves?
Save DC 14.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty well on par. Just another quick question.
Mm-hmm.
What is our wisdom mod? Mod is short for modifier. Just
+3.
+3.
Yep.
Because what's the base stat?
17.
So, okay. So I believe that our lizard folk will kind of become a little more wise. Make that a +4 and one more modifier because then they can add, wisdom modifier to a lot of their stuff.
Yes.
So that is our character made. So now that we've made this character,
That brings us to a close kind of on Rangers in general. Again, Rangers are kind of a mismatch between certain things. We talked about Paladins are kind of a cleric barbarian in some regards, whereas a Ranger is almost like a druid rogue depending on how you build it, a druid fighter. It's kind of, again, depending on how you want to play or what the kind of player background you're doing. Again, Rangers are very much just, a lot of people tend to play them as that stereotype of being a ranger.
being like lone, I'm going into the wilderness, I'm going to do my hunting, I'm going to do my killing like this, I'm all my own.
Again, a lot of people also pick Rangers because they get the pet.
They do get the pet. I mean, that's only if you pick Beastmaster, though.
Yes.
So, with the different archetypes, we know you pick Gloomstalker. What's your favorite? We know mine. We didn't discuss yours.
It's tough because there is the aspect of the Beastmaster where you get the companion that you can use to your advantage, which is always very beneficial. Or the Hunter, you get to just narrow everything down to such a pinpoint thing as you level up. It's very beneficial in that way, especially when you start doing like multiple attacks. So you see
the volley.
right? Because most of the times when you're playing, you run into multiple enemies. So it's like if
Within
they're
10 feet of each other.
right, if they're within 10 feet, it's like, oh, fa-dum, fa-dum, fa-dum. It's like, oh, that was easy. Versus like, fa-dum. All right, I'm done.
So Rangers are often, most people when they pick a Ranger, they pick an elf or a human because it's the classic, what you imagine of a Ranger is either technically Aragorn in Lord of the Rings or Legolas in Lord of the Rings. Like those are like, they're technically, both of them are technically Rangers because of how they define themselves, but they're vastly different, but they're also like the two like pinnacles of what people pick race-wise. We picked a lizard folk, which is, it makes sense. I like it. So look at what you think would be interesting and challenge yourself not to be the Legolas. If you really want to, be the Legolas.
Right.
Be that guy.
Be Legolas.
Be Legolas if you want to be Legolas.
No legs. No.
Not that type of Legolas. Like,
but yeah, it really comes down to what you're trying to do. If you want a character that's more in tune with nature but less focused on the magic side, a ranger is definitely that option. And that's again where you get to really focus in. Do you want a character whose whole thought process is like, I want to take down specific foes, or I'm going to defeat every fiend.
my life's goal is to kill giants.
Right, or like it's like fiends are running amok in our world, or it could be that just where you grew up, fiends were a problem, so that's what you are specialized in, and you go into the world and you're like, oh crap, there's more foes.
Or maybe you just want to play with animals all day.
Maybe you're the son of a merchant who runs a leather workshop, and you've grown up hunting, so you're just a hunter or have an animal companion to help you hunt. And then you're thrust into the world.
Hootie, no!
Hootie died doing what he loved.
I mean,
attacking giants.
As with all the characters that we do, it really comes down to the story that you're trying to tell with that character. And that's where you can really kind of fine-tune everything you're doing. As always, talk to your DM, especially if you're new and you're looking for a bit more of a direction. They're more than happy to usually point you in a little bit of the direction that you're trying to go in, or help you focus your thought process, or ask you the good questions. So that's Rangers in a nutshell.
Rangers in a nutshell.
Ranger power.
Go,
Go Ranger
Rangers.
So as always, if you guys have any questions, feel free to send us a message or comments. Sections are a thing, so make sure that you can use them. Follow us on all of our social medias. You can find them all in the end card.
Twitter, Facebook.
Let us know what your favorite archetype we described is, or let us know like an interesting ranger you've thought of.
Or if you've homebrewed a new one.
Or if you've homebrewed one, let us know.
Oh,
That'd be
yeah,
really
we
cool.
love hearing about homebrews.
Yeah, homebrews are a...
Mwah. Mwah. Spice.
Oh, the spice.
Yeah, I think you're addicted to homebrew.
I'm addicted to homebrews.
We'll get into homebrew. in a
Oh,
completely
this is
different
my
episode.
lovely homebrew. Mm.
No, not that about homebrew. Different homebrew. Different homebrew. Oh, God.
All right, so that was Rangers. Again, all the same stuff that we just said a second ago. And we'll see you next time. Until then, D10tion dismissed.